It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circa Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
All right, everybody, let's get this party started. You've come to another night in the Mountain West. I'm your host, Tom Moser. Thanks so much for being here. This is the pilot episode. I'm super excited. I know BJ's super excited, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So let's get right down to it. I'm going to bring BJ in here, and BJ, he's going to talk about kind of how this all came about and what what you guys can expect here on another night in the Mountain West. BJ, go ahead.
First of all, man, I'm going to crack my first Sun Cruiser here and just say congratulations to you, man. This is going to be a fun show. I'm so thankful you wanted to do this. I think it's going to be awesome. And folks that don't really want to hear me and want to hear you, they're not going to hear much of me. This is your show, and you're going to do a great job. I know Geoff Grammer is going to join us here in like 5 minutes. But for the most part, this is going to be your show throughout the season. There's just some technical things on show one. We figured I'll jump in and make sure it all runs smoothly. But this is your show. I'm not going to be a huge part of it. I may come in once a week or something and talk BSU or whatever else. Jeff may come in once a week, but this is going to be an awesome show, man. I've been following you for a long time. You do a tremendous job covering the Mountain West. I said it on Twitter, but the thing I like about you is you have no bias. You don't have a team you root for. I mean, if I tried to do this show, everybody would say I'm just a Boise homer or whatever. They won't, give me any credibility for what I say. So I wanted somebody that covers the league objectively. You live on the East Coast. It's midnight where you're at. You have no team, no rooting interest. And so I think you're fair, you're honest, and I think that gives you credibility that everybody else is going to enjoy. So you do a great job covering the league, and I think the league needs this kind of coverage. We can talk about next year in Pac-12, whatever down the road. But for the next 3 months, it's going to be nightly Mountain West basketball coverage. Whenever there's a Mountain West game, you're going to be in here talking about it. And we've talked to a lot of the SIDs. We're going to get players on, coaches on, anyone that's watched kind of the Field of 68 evening show. We're going to try to make this as much as we can like that. So I know BNN, Bronco Nation News, covers Boise State, but I've for a long time wanted to expand that coverage to all of the Mountain West. That's why we have the new YouTube channel that we'll put the link here in the comments so folks can follow us on there. If you're watching on Twitter, follow us on our new YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/@Mountain West BNN. Again, youtube.com/@Mountain West BNN. Subscribe to our channel, get in the comments, get in the chat. And I know it's a long-winded answer, Tom, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun as we go. Like on Saturday, when you've got 5 games to talk about, like hopefully, like tonight, once we get this thing built up, we'll have San Diego State fans in the chat. We'll have Air Force fans in the chat talking back and forth. And on Saturday, you got 5-6 games. Like hopefully this is a spot that Mountain West fans across the conference are like, oh, games are over. I got to jump on and see what Tom's saying about these games. Oh, we got to see which players or coaches are popping on, or, oh, I wonder what fans I can talk, shit to in the chat. Like we're going to have some fun. Like I said, I'm having a beverage. It's going to be kind of a laid back kind of show late at night just to kind of talk basketball. And like I said, have fun in the chat. And I know there's some rivalries and fan bases that don't like each other and fan bases that don't like me, whatever. I like to have fun on Twitter, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. But hopefully we can get the whole Mountain West community together and talk basketball together. And like I said, talk trash in the chat and have fun. But overall, I think the conference is really lacking for something like this. You were as close as it was doing your podcast, weekly or however often you would do it. And you had your other live stream. But I think now that we're going to do this every single night. Now, there are a couple nights where there's some crappy non-D1 games or whatever. We're not going to do that. But after Saturday, once we get into conference play here, anytime there's a conference game, we want to get that habit for everybody to say, hey, when that game ends, you're going to come here and hear what Tom has to say and the guests and everybody else. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Can't wait to get this thing rolling, man.
Yeah, well, look, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate all that. It is late here on the East Coast, but there's no time worries for me. I'm juiced up right now. I've been excited about this. You and I have talked several times back and forth the last few days about how excited I am too. And as you know, we have many, many passionate fans across this great conference. So, we encourage the comments and the interaction and the feedback. We hope to get to as many comments. We hope that it's an issue that there's too many comments for us to get to, because that means that we're doing a good job. Obviously, as you know, there was only the one game tonight. So I view this kind of as like a soft opening, right? Your friend has a bar, restaurant. It's a soft opening only for VIPs where they come in before it's open to the general public then the next day out. And so we'll spend a few minutes on the game that just ended. But you mentioned Geoff's going to come in. So we'll take this kind of in a 3-part show here, a little bit on the game tonight, but then a lot on what's taken place in the first month and a half of the season. And then look ahead, of course, as you mentioned, just a huge Saturday of hoops in the conference, one great non-conference game, and several big heavy hitter games in the conference that are really going to shape things early on. So I don't know how much of tonight's you got to see, because I know you had another show that you were doing, but your first impression on what you did see from that game that ended up a blowout, but for 20 minutes, it certainly was not.
Well, first of all, one more thing. Nice background, nice microphone, nice light. Like, you put some serious effort into this thing. We've been talking for a couple weeks here, and I'm like, hey, man, no disrespect to the previous live streams you've done, but if we're going to make this thing a professional, 3 or 4 times a week show here, you got to step up your production game, and you were all about it. And I don't know if you got makeup on or if your wife got you dressed, tonight or what, but you look dapper and professional and ready to go, and the light and the camera and you sound good, and you went out and bought a flag for the Mountain West for the background there. Like, this is impressive, man.
I did. Well, thanks. It's funny. They're both sick here. When you have as you know, and Geoff knows too, when as Geoff, it might be Geoff, but as you guys well know, when you have someone in kindergarten, they bring home every germ in the book. So I have a, knock on wood, have a pretty strong immune system. Both of the girls here are not exactly feeling very well. So I don't know how I look, but I did improve the lighting in here. If you'd see the rest of the room, you'd faint, but it does look good from where we are. And like you said, got to make it a little bit more professional, expecting a nice crowd in here. And we want to, do this thing up properly. So I figured that was the way to go. And, you and I had some conversations about that, but as far as the game tonight, it didn't end up much of a game. I don't like to disparage or talk about Air Force a lot because they do things far more important than what they do athletically, but they're not a very good basketball team. What do you think about the way that the Aztecs kind of played with them for 20 minutes? It's a 3-point game at the half. I mean, does that give you pause, worry about what we can expect here from San Diego State moving forward?
Well, I mean, I know it's been an up and down season, obviously, with the Troy loss that everybody wants to talk about, and then didn't play well against Michigan, but nobody has. And even some of their, like the Utah Valley type wins, I know weren't like super impressive at times this year, but I'm still in the belief that when push comes to shove, Brian Dutcher's going to have them right there near the top of the conference. I know some of the numbers aren't great, in the metrics and where they're at in the net ranking and all that. And yeah, you look up and they're only up by 3 points at halftime. But I mean, if you had the Air Force plus 24.5, which I saw somebody on your Twitter today asking you if they should take that, like you're thinking it when they're up 3.5, you're thinking, okay, or up, only 3-point game. You're thinking this game is, it's an easy win. And then you're kind of sweating that there at the end. And the final score is 23, depending on what line you got. So that, I mean, very impressive second half. I mean, BJ Davis, I think had 2 points in the first half, came on strong in the second half. And I know Geoff still kind of getting the rust off from his injury. And, I'm in, maybe when Geoff joins us here shortly, like maybe he'll have a different thought, but I'm just in the belief that I'm never counting out San Diego State. They're going to be there when it matters. They're not a team that you want to go play at Viejas. They're never a team that, regardless of what they do in the previous game or season, you're going to feel good about playing. I just think they have too much athletes, too much talent. And like I said, I mean, I'm curious your thoughts, but I just, they didn't play great in the first half. Second half was certainly much better. But I'm still never counting out San Diego State when it comes to this conference race or anything like that here moving forward.
Well, here's what I would worry about if I were an Aztec fan. You mentioned BJ Davis. So Geoff, I actually thought Geoff looked better tonight, just how he moved, how he seems to be getting in better shape, and that's great. The guy I worry about is Miles Byrd. BJ Davis is coming off the bench, one of the top bench scorers in the country. Didn't do well, as you mentioned, first half point-wise, but lit it up in the second half. And Dutcher, he almost can't play Byrd anymore for substantial minutes. So, like, I don't know if this team can reach its ceiling if Byrd continues to kind of just, I don't want to say go through the motions because I do think he plays hard, but there was a play in the first half. I don't know if you saw it. It was like a microcosm of their season. He gets a steal because he's athletic and long and lanky, and he gets in passing lanes. He gets a steal, and he tries to come down the other end and do a hot dog like windmill dunk, misses the dunk. He kind of falls into the offensive rebound by accident near the sideline and steps out of bounds. So it's just like, and at the time it was a 1 or 2 possession game, and it's like, just lay it in or dunk it, get the 2 points. But that's just kind of what you get from him sometimes. And I don't know if Dutcher's had enough of it, because at one point I looked at the box score. The game was like 27 minutes in, and he had only played 11 minutes. And BJ, there's no way around it. Aztec fan, Aztec hater, whatever you are, BJ Davis is outplaying Miles Byrd. Now, they can play at the same time, but there's enough bodies on that roster that Dutcher can play. I don't know what's going to happen with Miles, and I just don't know that they can reach their ceiling if he's not a guy that he is capable of being. This guy was a guy who at the last minute decided to stay in college instead of going into the draft. So he's just a guy that I worry about. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. By the way, John Scott on Twitter, appreciate you, says Aztecs struggling with Air Force for a half at Viejas is a Mountain West tradition.
It is. It is. They showed not only both games last year, they showed, of course, who could forget the one at Air Force when I think it was Wayne McKinney kind of went coast to coast at the buzzer for a layup, and they really stole that win when they got outplayed and didn't deserve to win that game. And they did the same thing in the other game against Air Force too. So, I don't want to look, they played a good second half, but I don't put a whole lot of stock into it because look, Air Force is 330 in Ken Palm. They're just not a very good team. Even the announcers always will try to glaze the teams because they don't want to talk down to them. They basically said that it's a no-win situation for Joe Scott because Army and Navy they play in the Patriot League, right? One of the lower level leagues right near my neck of the woods. They can't take Air Force was a difficult job before the college landscape changed with NIL and the transfer portal. With the way it is now, it's impossible for them to get players and keep the players. You can't do it. And I just don't like Joe Scott. How's he ever going to do anything here? It's got to be so frustrating for him. And that's why they are where they are. So I don't put a ton of stock into a good second half by San Diego State because I just think everybody does it to Air Force. So I need to see it on Saturday. We'll talk about that game in a little bit.
And on the Air Force side, I mean, I do I got my magazine here. I do the Lindy's Magazine college basketball stuff for the Mountain West. And I talked to Joe Scott over the summer, and he's just, you almost like feel bad for him. Like you want to give him a hug, like there's nothing he can do. And he keeps losing his best players. Yep. And now you look at it, and he's got, two of his best players from previous years are back in the Mountain West with Heidebreiter over at Fresno. And then Utah State now has the guy from last year.
Kearney,
yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, what's he supposed to do? And they can't go pick anybody out of the portal. And I mean, they won 4 games last year. And, you wonder how many they're going to end up winning, this year. I know they got 3 wins already, but in conference, I don't see them winning very many at all. So I do feel very bad for Joe Scott. That's going to be a really tough year again for them there at Air Force. There's really no way around it. So maybe you take the win with a grain of salt for San Diego State, but I on the Air Force side, no doubt feel really bad for Joe Scott.
Yeah, I don't know that they'll get above 5. I'm glad they got the 3 they got because it's going to be slim pickings in the conference because even like Fresno's been down there at the bottom with them the last few years. I think Fresno's improved. So, okay. I see we got our other guest host here, special guest, Geoff Grammer. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, man. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Me and Jeff are just here to battle out asterisks and attendance figures.
Let's do it. What was the announced attendance tonight at Viejas?
That's peripherally. I don't get too involved.
It's finals week. We got to put an asterisk on that San Diego State attendance crowd tonight, Jeff.
All right. Announced attendance at Viejas Arena. I'm going to look it up. Let's see. Oh, shoot. I clicked the wrong one. All right. I'm going to find out, though.
It looked okay. I don't think it was full, but it was all right.
10,727.
There you go.
Okay, solid for an Air Force game a week before Christmas. Okay, so Jeff, you gave your letter grades out. I guess it was yesterday in the Albuquerque Journal.
Shocker, the 1A was New Mexico, huh?
A+ was Wyoming. Come on now, A+ Wyoming.
So before we get to Wyoming, because I do have a question about Wyoming, let's talk about your Lobos. And before we get into kind of why they're succeeding and more so kind of overperforming expectations, let's talk about some of the personnel issues. What can you update us on with Buljan, the big man who got hurt on Sunday? And then also what's going on with Patton? What's the deal there? Have you found anything out?
I mean, nothing concrete, but I mean, Patton's not happy, got chewed out again. Their last game at VCU, you could see it on the ESPN Plus stream. If he's looking for a new home, that may be what's going on. He's embarrassed. It's not working out. They're not on the same page. He's a nice guy. His brother was on the bench. His brother's on the team too. So it's not like they both just sort of left. If it can work out, that they would gladly keep him. I think he's probably in a place where he has to decide sort of where he's at with all this. Mm-hmm. And he's as athletic as anybody on the team. And has not played within the offense and has not played within the defense really. And it's unfortunate because they lack athleticism on this team overall. Now there's some individual athletes. It's not as bad as some people have made it out to be, but they certainly aren't, Donovan Dent, JT Toppin, Nelly Jr. Joseph over the past couple of years of Patino. But they're skilled. They're not looking for the guy who can jump out of the gym first and then kind of figure out how to use him. And that's sort of more of a Patino thing. Get the best basketball player you can, and then maybe adjust to that. Eric Olin was hired because for 20 years at UC San Diego, he kind of created this perfect storm of offensive and defensive schemes that kind of married into one another and did what they did last year at UC San Diego. And he kind of has this analytics idea in his mind of this guy goes out, then if this guy comes in, we adjust the rebound rate for the whole roster, and the turnover rate is this. And he formulates everything, all 5 guys on the floor at one time. It's sort of like a beautiful mind math game going on the entire game with him. He isn't looking for individual athletes per se. It doesn't mean he doesn't want them. Obviously, he would take them. But what he wants instead is pieces that fit together. And that's why I think there have been some Lobo fans kind of frustrated at times with like a guy named Chris Howell, who's one of their starting guards. Certainly isn't the most athletic guy in the team, and his offensive numbers haven't been great, but he does. I mean, their plus minus when he's on the court and off the court is tremendous. Like they're way better when he's on the court, and Eric Olin likes that kind of stuff because
he's an Olin guy.
Yeah, he's an Olin guy. He came over. His brother's on the staff. His brother played point guard for Olin, and I just think that Kevin Patton's a guy who was the most athletic from day one when he got here, and hasn't yet worked out. You can see on the VCU game last week, he kind of broke from the offense and started driving to the hoop. Defenders collapsed. He got caught up in this weird place where he didn't see anybody to pass to. So then he got called for a travel, and Olin just tore into him. And it's happened several times where it's like, if you don't know what you're doing, the last thing I want you to do is just drive to the hoop because you want to go score. Like, at least pass it or at least run the offense is sort of what they're going for. And with their, as Larry is saying, I mean, the rebounding is going to be one of the worst in the leagues, outside arguably the best individual rebounder in Tomislav Gulian. I think everyone else on the team is pretty poor at that. I do think they have some good guards, actually. I shouldn't say that entirely, because they have some good guard rebounders in Luke Hop. Jake Hall's decent at it, actually. And Dayton Albury for a point guard, he's averaging 4, I think he's at 4 rebounds a game as a point guard. So anyway, the Lobos are such a unique style, and Lobo fans are getting so frustrated, or were getting so frustrated early on with, man, I don't see a Donovan Dent out there and a Nelly Jr. Joseph. How is this going to work? And the next thing you know, they're 9-2. They have the best true road win, at least metrics wise. Boise State and Butler's right there in the argument for the true road wins anyway. But the VCU wins a little bit higher, I think, in both Ken Pom and I don't know where it is in net right now, but look, they got that good road win. They blew out a Santa Clara team that, double-digit wins against Nevada, against Nico Medved's Minnesota, against Richard Pitino's Xavier, all those double-digit wins, and then Santa Clara comes into the pit, and the Lobos beat them by 27. And I just think that they're a roster that's coming around and starting to play better, and hence the yes, Fire Grammer, we can get this done. I'm telling you, we can do it. Hence the A that I ended up giving them is just, I think, being one of only 3 teams in the entire country out of 365 Division I teams, there's only 3 that don't have a single player returning or a single staff member, and New Mexico is one of those 3. I think the other 2 are Temple. I'll have to look at Steve Kirkland's game notes. But anyway, they had nobody back. They didn't have the strength coach back, the trainer, the doctor. They had 2 team managers and an SID. So I guess you could count the SID.
Yeah, give Steve some love. Come on.
Give Steve some love. But they had, 2 team managers back, and that's it. So with all that and learning such an intricate offense and defensive scheme, to have made it through at 9-2, I figured an A. A B was probably where I was going to go until the VCU win. When they got the VCU road win, I figured that'd be good because their 2 losses aren't bad either. I mean, one loss was to a Nebraska team that's in the top 20 in every metric, and then the other loss was on the road to New Mexico State, and it was a 2-point game in the final minute. It wasn't a horrible loss.
It's starting to age a little poorly, though. They've lost
3 in a row. Yeah, 3 in a row.
Yeah. They also returned Geoff Grammer, though. Don't underestimate that.
That's right.
We know, when you have travel issues, they don't seem to fare very well. Okay,
that's right.
Meanwhile, by the way, while they're doing what they're doing, I don't know if you guys saw it tonight or not, but worst loss in Cintas Center history tonight for Richard Pitino.
Yeah, they have been playing good basketball too. They won that crosstown shootout against Cincinnati, so that kind of got the fans off his back a little bit because they care about that Cincinnati game probably more than they care about most of their Big East games. But they certainly did not play well tonight.
Well, not only did the fact that they beat Cincinnati do it, but he made sure he had the video crew with him when he went over to the bar and the student bar near the arena, and gave the bartender a couple $1,000 and yelled out, "Drinks are on me," and bought the bar a round of drinks. And he made himself a pretty popular man when he did that. But I'll tell you, yeah, this graphic that you're showing on the screen right now certainly made its rounds in these parts, in this neck of the woods tonight, because anything Patino does, good or bad, is still pretty big topic in these parts.
So one more in the Lobos here before we shift our attention to some of the other teams at the top of the conference. I guess we'll consider Buljan a freshman, even though he's 23 and has professional experience. Between the freshmen, Hall, Tanet, who we didn't even talk about, he brings a lot of energy off the bench, and Buljan, who do you see being the most consistent and productive as we get into conference player? Because we know the freshmen in the conference, they've done very well so far. There's not a great history of freshmen doing that in the conference because of how difficult it is. Who do you see being the most impactful as we move forward here?
So, I mean, leading scorer is going to be Jake Hall this year. He will be. He's going to get volume threes every game. I mean, if there's Daniel Ferris, a former Lobo basketball player, has been doing a lot of the radio work, analyst work, while the regular crew is doing some TV work, blah, blah, blah. He had tweeted out, like, the first game he did, he said, I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what, how much, if he misses 8, 9, 10 of them a game, I want to see Jake Hall shoot 12, 15 shots a game, all threes if you want him to be, but that's what I want out of him. And it was kind of just a, throwaway tweet at the time. He's kind of reposted that every single game, and the Lobos are really good when Jake Hall gets hot from deep. That said, I think the key to this team has got to be Tomislav Buljan. I don't know how they survive some bigger teams without Tomislav. I do know JT Rock has come around the last 4 games and playing really well as the only true center on the team. He's the Iowa State transfer, former top 100 guy. Came out of high school when he was 17. So he's in his third year of college and still just either he just turned 20 or he might still be 19 and already in his third year of college. He's a 7-1 guy that is playing really well the last 4 or 5 games, but he's still only playing about 20 minutes a game because there's some limitations, right? I mean, sometimes guys their production drops off a cliff and they start fouling more and start making bad mistakes, stuff like that. He's one of those guys that hasn't proven he can play more than 3, maybe 4 minutes at a time without having to go back to the bench. So they need a big man. And Tomislav Buljan, who hurt his hamstring in the game the other night or the other afternoon against Florida Gulf Coast, they need him back. Now they're in an interesting spot right now where they had a whole week, Sunday to Saturday stretch between the opener against San Jose State on Saturday. If they can get through that, if he needs the rest, then they have 10 more days till their next game against Boise State. So he has an awful lot of time to rest if that's what they need. But I don't know, I don't know if the first-year coach wants to risk your Mountain West debut and not put him out there on Saturday against San Jose State. So I would say Tomislav Buljan's the key to this team, though. But man, Jake Hall's a good freshman. He's better than just a shooter. And Uriah Tanet is listed as 5'11". He's probably 5'10", maybe with a haircut. He's 5'9". I don't know. He can jump out of the gym. He won their dunk contest. He is a point guard that out of Prescott, Arizona, he scored 2,700 points in high school. And he's a 5'10" guard that the reason Eric Olin wanted him is he wants space with one guard. That's why I got Dayton Albury out of Utah State. That can just get into the paint no matter what. He's quick enough to get into the paint and then spray it out if he can find an open shooter or finish whatever. But Dayton Albury was a high school kid that he recruited to be that guy in the offense. And he's already that guy as a true freshman. I didn't think he'd be ready, but he is.
Yeah. A lot to like. Tanet, he was vital in that Santa Clara game with his defensive pressure, him and Albury both. And just to piggyback off your point about Hall shooting, I remember commenting after the exhibition games when the only thing we had to go by were your stat sheets because there was no video, and being amazed at how many threes a true freshman was getting up and thinking to myself, there's no way this is going to work.
And he was awful, by the way.
Yeah, right. It may have been the VCU game. It may have been the game Sunday. And I tweeted out, I said, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. And I don't say that often. I said, maybe I was wrong. They should just let Hall, much to what you just said, fire up 15 threes a game because it's a better option than what they get some of the other times. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah, that may be something to look into there. All right, BJ, let's bring you back in here. Let's. Oh, you have some stats for us. We have some Mountain West in Ken Palm. Okay, let's take a look. Is this preseason here, BJ?
No, this is right now.
No, it's right now.
Yeah, they adjusted because San Diego State got the win, so they're at the top, and Air Force is in their usual spot at the bottom. But yeah, San Diego State, it does look a little weird because San Diego State's back at number 1.
Yeah, that's why I assumed it was preseason, because I have them written down into today, and they were
No, it's got them
today.
first because they're 1-0 in conference.
Yeah.
I see you. Okay, understood. Okay. All right. So we have saying at the top. Well, let's get. I want to get your thoughts on Boise here, BJ, because clearly, the result aside, the disaster against Hawaii Pacific, I didn't think they played good basketball the first 2 weeks. I thought they played okay out in Maui. They just ran up against a couple tough opponents. But clearly now, ever since that moment, they've looked really good. Two of the best wins in the conference over the last week and a half here. What have they done to turn it around? Why are they all of a sudden looking like a contender as opposed to a team that is out there losing the D2 teams? What's been the difference here lately for the Broncos?
Well, I think defensively is where you got to start. I mean, they're up to number 20 now in defensive efficiency at Ken Palm. That's kind of a Mike Burns staple is defensive and being one of those top 30 teams. You look at the 3 times they were in the NCAA tournament before last year, they were top 30 in the country in defensive efficiency. And then last year they slipped to like 70th and they didn't make the tournament. So they kind of have this thing they've studied and looked at. If they can be top 30, they feel like they're going to be in a decent spot at the end of the season to get into the tournament. And they're sitting at number 20 right now. So I would say the defense has stepped up. They're playing better defensively. And then, rebounding, a staple of Leon Rice in particular, defensive rebounding. They're 5th in the country in defensive rebounding right now. They just don't give up a lot of offensive rebounds. They don't give up a lot of second chance points. And so the defense and the rebounding has been huge for them. And then, on individual basis, like a Drew Fielder stepped up. I mean, I think in that USC game, he had like 2 points. And they lose by 3 points, have a chance at the buzzer, and Drew Fielder had 2 points in that game. You look at what he's been doing down the stretch lately. He's had some big games, 22 points, I think it was, in the game against St. Mary's the other day. He's had 3 or 4 games of late where he's scored a lot more, and he's scoring from the outside, inside. I mean, they went to the portal and gave him $500,000. The biggest, I think, highest paid player in Boise State basketball history is what somebody told me coming out of Georgetown, and he's stepped up. He's leading their team in scoring now, leading their team in rebounding. He's been big. And then I think Peanut Carmichael getting going. He had no confidence. He was really struggling early in the season. He's come on and had some big games. And then even when he hasn't had some big games, he's hit some big shots at times. In St. Mary's game, he had a huge 3-pointer at one point. So Meadows still there. Buchanan's doing his thing. Nato, obviously, the point guard coming off the bench. I mean, they're just the guys are finding their roles. I mean, even like a Dom Parolin, who I was pretty critical of early in the season. I didn't think he provided much of anything. A backup big coming off the bench, transfer from Lehigh. He's stepped up and had some massive games. In the Butler game, he won them the game, had 8 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of his baskets, late in the second half were just massive. So I think they're figuring out their roles. They're very deep. I mean, they can go 9-10 deep pretty easily. So their guys aren't getting as tired. I mean, there were, last year you'd pencil in Alvaro Cardenas and Tyson Degenhardt for like 38 minutes each. They're not having to do that this year. I mean, Drew Fielder is playing like 20 minutes a game and scoring 20 points a game. Like, they're able to spread the guys out. I think the depth is much better on this team, and they're finding their roles, and all the pieces are just starting to click. And like you said, I mean, they should have beat USC. That was one that they really would have loved to have had against USC, had a chance to win that game. The NC State game, the bracket fell, not the right way for them. But in the end, I think they would have rather played NC State, and you want to play the tougher teams. That's why you go to Maui. But they had a second half lead on both NC State and on USC. I mean, they were leading in the second half in both those games. So, yeah, they lost them both. Had to play Chaminade. It was not an ideal result for them. But overall, I think since that Hawaii Pacific game, they've kind of just gradually continued to get better. And like I said, the defense and rebounding have really both improved. And they're sitting there. I mean, before the season, and I know Joe Lenardi's not whatever, but you look at net rankings, you look at Ken Palm, all that stuff, like they are in a better spot now than they were before the season. And that's crazy to believe given the Hawaii Pacific loss. But, I mean, they started the season 53rd at Ken Palm, and they go into conference play at 45. They were not even on Joe Lenardi's radar, and now they're second team out or whatever. So, I mean, you can – it sounds crazy to say, but, like, the non-conference was a net positive for them. They improved their standing in the non-conference despite losing to a Division II team in the first game. So, certainly been an up and down, mostly, after the down, it's been mostly kind of gradually going up since then. But I think they feel like they're in a good spot. And anybody that, knows Leon Rice's teams and follows them, like they usually have a really bad early season loss. They lost to Boston College last year.
Yeah.
They've lost some other bad games. They lose that first one, and they're always kind of playing from behind, but they always get better as the season goes on. It looks like it's going to be no different here this year.
Well, maybe they just play better with their backs to the wall. Let me touch on a few things here. First of all, Fielder definitely earned part of his paycheck then on Sunday. Also, you and I share a lot of the same, almost exact same thoughts on Parolin. But more importantly, there, the thing you mentioned about the St. Mary's game, I think to me, like the most underappreciated skill in basketball is rebounding, right? It just gets overlooked. And if you can rebound a basketball, or if you don't rebound a basketball and you're getting swamped on the glass, it's like a turnover. You're giving the opponent extra shots. And St. Mary's, they bang and bang and bang. And that's why Boise won that game. Amidst all the other craziness about the end at the end of the game, Boise won that game because they did incredible on the glass. And I don't even care if the end game rebound numbers were only like 4 or 5 rebounds apart.
They lost. They lost the rebounding battle, but with those 2 7-footers, it felt like a massive win.
They bludgeoned teams on the glass. So playing them even on the glass is like winning on the glass. So I don't care that what the number said. You could tell the effort, because rebounding is a lot of effort. Let's face it, right? And in college, it's not like high school where you have to turn and box out and find a guy. You just go get the ball because you're a better athlete. But when you got 7-foot big guys climbing over you and going to get it, it makes it difficult. So massive props to the staff and stressing that. And I love teams that rebound. On both ends of the floor, I do. So I think if they do that, they'll be in every game. I really think so. But I want to ask Geoff one question here, because BJ mentioned the fact that Boise's metrics have improved since the start of the year. As far as I know, Geoff, we've never had a bubble team lose to a Division II team. And while BJ's 100% correct that the metrics have improved, those metrics don't include that D2 loss. So without any past precedents to go off of, what's your thought on what's going to happen in March 15th if Boise's on the bubble and they have that D2 loss that's not figured into the metrics? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, Boise fans are going to love me saying this. Maybe there should be an asterisk by their by their metrics. I do think that Boise's in a tough spot where if they are on the true bubble, and we're talking true 3-4 teams that all have a really valid case to get in, I don't see Boise getting the benefit of the doubt if they are truly one of the 2, 3, 4 teams that are tied for 1 spot or 2 spots. I wouldn't see any team with the D2 loss getting that benefit of the doubt. But the reality is, like, what they're doing right now is they're playing themselves off the bubble.
Right.
Now they're not playing themselves up to a 6 seed or a 5 seed or something like that. But I think they're playing themselves comfortably into that 7-8 kind of range if they keep this trajectory going. So I would say, to be safe though, I would outperform the bubble as best you possibly can, because it is going to be a topic that the committee doesn't want to have to answer questions about, explaining why would you even put a team in that lost to a non-D1 school, right? I imagine it's happened before, but to your point, I can't imagine, and I certainly don't recall it ever happening with a bubble team where somebody got in and you had that really big bullet point on the con side to say that, there's pros and cons for every team. If one of your con bullet points is lost to Division I or Division II team on your home court, that's going to be hard to overcome. So they better play themselves off the bubble.
I'll just say this, like, and if people in the show say, "Oh, you're a Boise home" or whatever. Like, it's not Boise. It's just in general, any team. I just find there's something wrong with this sport. If the very, very first night of the season you lose by 1 point with half new roster or whatever, and that on November 3rd. That game is what keeps you out of the tournament on March whatever, if the rest of your resume and the rest of your season and 6 months body of work says you deserve to be in. So I just, like you said, Geoff, we've never seen it. We don't know how they're going to react. I feel like the net rankings, by the way, added a category for non-D1, which I don't even remember them having. And I don't know if that was solely because of Boise State losing or not. I don't know. By the way, Montana Tech NAIA beat Montana tonight, so maybe Boise State now has some company in terms of D1 losing to not only Division II but NAIA. I don't know, but I don't know. And this is not a Boise State thing. It's just a thing. I would be saying this if it were any team. People can call me home or whatever. I just have a hard time believing, and it just doesn't seem right that the first night of the season, you lose by 1 point because you miss a shot, yeah, they played terrible, whatever, but you lose by 1 point the very first night of the season. And that is what could keep you out. If you have St. Mary's win, Butler win, who knows what they're going to do in conference. Like, that just doesn't seem right to me. And I hope doesn't end up happening. But I mean, I guess all the games count the same. They try to tell you the first game counts the same as the 31st game. I get it. That just doesn't seem right to me.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, look, you can go both ways with it. There's two sides to every argument, and your point is valid. Like, should we really put as much stock into that when you have all these other things? And that's where I think Geoff made the right point. There's got to be a cutoff point somewhere. If they're in the 8 or 9 line, they'll probably be okay. But if they're in that last 4 in, first 4 out batch, they may not get the benefit of doubt. And especially if the teams they're battling with are Power 4 teams or have teams whose committee members who have committee members on, I'm sorry, you know what I'm trying to say, who have members on the committee, like North Carolina last year, right? Like, now they ended up destroying San Diego State in the first 4, but they probably didn't deserve to get in, and they got in because the chairman or one of the guys, the top guys on the committee, was from UNC. So, like, Boise's not going to have that representation, and if it comes down to them or an SEC team or a Big 12 or a Big 10 team, I just worry that they're going to get squeezed out, and nobody that's a Mountain West fan watching this or listening to it should be surprised about any of that, to be honest. So, look, there's a long way to go for that. Boise could go 10-10, and it'll be a moot point. They could go 16-4, and it'll be a moot point the good way. And, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. So, all right, Geoff, let's get to one more team here before we talk about Saturday's massive slate. And that's a team that you gave your highest grade to, the Wyoming Cowboys, with Sundance Wicks off to a high-flying 9-2 start. They sit 89th in KenPom, up 66 spots from the preseason, and they are 53rd going into tonight. I didn't refresh them yet. 53rd in the net. That's pretty darn good. You gave them an A+ or an A. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys right now, and why they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah, so I talked with Sunny at Sundance today for a podcast that's out and up now. Don't go yet.
What,
but
competing podcast? What is this? Come on.
After the show, go watch it. It's good stuff. But I gave them I had an A when I originally wrote it, and then they won their True Road game Monday night, and I went back in and upped it to an A+ because the warts are this. The warts are they really haven't beat a good team. They haven't beat anybody in the top 150, I think it is, in KenPom. They are a team that I think their best win was a 4-point loss at Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. But what they are right now, and you just cited that number, that net number, you go to Laramie and you're now a quad 1, potentially a quad 1 win to play Wyoming in Laramie. Wow. And Laramie's a tough place to play, but they help the league out so much. Now, I know that some people, November was a bad month for the league overall. December, the last couple of weeks, kind of some people have been catching up, right? Some teams have been getting some wins, this and that. What you really got to look at is sort of where the quadrants fall. I think Wyoming did so much that they are not a bad opponent to play anymore. They're not even a nothing opponent. They're actually a quality opponent to play right now because they played the metrics game exactly how you can best do it to help the league. Now, can they sustain it? We'll see. We'll see. But they're playing 12 deep. They're running. And if you're running at 7,200 feet and you're able to go 12 deep, you're going to wear some teams out, even the teams who know what they're getting into. I like the fact that this is in Wyoming's favor, not Grand Canyon's. I like the fact for Wyoming that league newcomer Grand Canyon, who's a little bit of a head scratcher to me too, because I don't know what to make of them. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're good. They're probably, I guess, right in the middle, and I still think that makes them a little bit of an unknown to me and so many. But their first taste of the Mountain West is to go to Laramie, and they're not just getting the Wyoming team of the last couple of years. They're getting a Wyoming team that actually might be pretty good. So my grades were also, though, on a curve. I'm not grading preseason 12 Air Force the same way I was grading preseason 1 San Diego State. San Diego State's, in my mind, if I was doing a power rankings, I'm still putting Utah State probably 1, Boise State 2 in some order. That's the top tier in my mind right now. But I didn't give either one of them an A+ like I did Wyoming. I think versus what I expected and what they did to kind of help themselves and the league, frankly, I think Wyoming did the most.
expectation.
Tom, who's your and I know this is your show. I shouldn't be asking the questions here, but who's your we're talking positive, with the Wyoming. Who's your biggest disappointment to this point, Tom?
Well, I mean, I think the easy answer is UNLV, but they're just such a train wreck that I think they should kind of be put in their own category for now. And
Every year.
Geoff answered it. And he gave the answer a minute ago. I would say Grand Canyon. I expected more from them. They've had some individuals for me that have been a little disappointing. The point guard Brian Moore came over from an HBCU, who's the HBCU Player of the Year last year. He was supposed to be really good. They got excited about Stromer, the Gonzaga transfer. He doesn't even start anymore. Drew kind of bagged him. I mean, he plays a little bit, but he hasn't been very effective. They haven't. They're in the same boat really as Wyoming. They haven't beaten anybody. They do have a terrible loss at home to Youngstown State. They dropped way down. Their Ken Palm actually isn't that bad because they've blown a couple bad teams out, but their net is not very good. And now it's funny. Geoff mentioned that game, and we'll talk about it more in a few minutes. But back in September, October, it was like everyone had Grand Canyon here and Wyoming here, and it was like, ooh, that'll be a tough test to see if Grand Canyon can pull that one out. Well, now it's completely flipped, and Wyoming's going to be a 4, 5, 6 point favorite in that game at home. Like, the pressure is going to be on them. It'll be disappointing for them if they lose. Nobody's going to expect Grand Canyon to go up there and win for several reasons. So it's got to be Grand Canyon for me. And I mean, I don't know if they can turn it around or not. I don't have enough experience watching Bryce Drew to know if he'll be able to coach him out of it. He's not in the WAC or CUSA or any other league anymore. He's going to go up against very good coaches night in and night out. They didn't even get into Mountain West play yet, and I think they've been disappointing. So I was hoping to see more from them, and I haven't. I don't know if you guys would have a different answer to that question, but that's kind of where I stand.
I would just say the home court advantage. We keep hearing so much about that for Grand Canyon, and you mentioned the game they lost, but we'll see what the home court advantage does for them, because whether it's a Utah State or some of these teams in the league. I mean, Boise State, like some of these teams, they obviously play much better at home, and they win some games at home that they maybe shouldn't sometimes. And you wonder if that's going to be Grand Canyon. Or are they going to go, how many home games is it 20 game schedule? You get 10 home games. I mean, are they going to go 8-2 at home in this league? Or are they going to go 6-4 or 5-5? I think we keep hearing so much about that. And I don't remember if you've been there or not. Boise State's played there. I haven't been there. It's obviously a crazy atmosphere, but if the team's not very good, maybe it won't matter. But are they going to steal a couple they shouldn't because of the crowd? I'll be curious to see that.
Yeah, interesting point. Okay, so we there were two teams near the top that we have not even breathed the word of, and I kind of left them out because they play each other in the first game on Saturday. So I think, without knowing for sure, I think because San Diego State had that game scheduled against Arizona Saturday, if they didn't, it would have been San Diego State Air Force on Saturday. We would have had all 12 teams playing with 6 games. But because the Aztecs needed to squeeze that one in there, they bumped it up here to Wednesday when there was nothing else going. So we have that one late at night. But the first game then to tip off a huge Saturday is CSU and the high-flying Rams traveling to Logan. Students won't be there, but it's going to be a sellout. 2 o'clock Eastern, my time, noon out there Mountain for you guys. So an early start will be a great crowd. Should be an offensive game. I mean, look, we know what CSU is. They have such a vast gap between their metrics. Ken Palm offensive ranking, they're in the top 20 in the country. I think they're 17th, and they're 185 in their defensive metrics. So, I mean, you don't see many teams with a gap that big. Utah State's kind of, with Calhoun's been mixing it up a little bit here defensively lately. Geoff, I'll go to you. I don't know how much you've seen of these guys, but what are your early thoughts on what should be a really heavyweight game on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I would say again, if we're judging on expectations, I would say Utah State was still an A. You can't give them anything but that. 9-1, top metrics all across the board, but they weren't overly impressive. I mean, Weber State was that the one I think that ended up being a 10-point win, but man, it went down to the wire. They had a couple games that at home that weren't overly impressive. That said, MJ Collins may end up leading this league in scoring. Falslev is starting to come into form a little bit too. Not that he was bad, but Templin's fine. Like they got the guys that they'll be fine. They'll be in the title race until the end. But they certainly didn't pull away in my mind from the pack. I will say that Colorado State has impressed me more than I thought they would, and Ollie being able to get them in year one to to take on this 3-point identity I mean, what they're doing 3-point wise is ridiculous. And they got to come back to earth at some point, right? I mean, water finds its level kind of thing. It won't stay quite like this all year, but man, as long as they can ride this out, if they can kind of get the defense up to speed a little bit at CSU while they're still riding out this unbelievable 3-point barrage where they're number 1 in the country, if they can get their defense figured out just a little bit more, then I think CSU can have some strong kind of lasting power. At this point, their offense might be good enough where they're going to be a title contender. I just don't recall too often seeing a defense that just doesn't scare. I don't know who it would scare in this league or who would be afraid. That you have to get into shootouts with them, but I don't remember the last team in this league that had a really bad defense that ended up winning it. You have to have at least a solid defense, and obviously good offense is going to help. But I don't remember it being so, really good in one area and really bad in another area, and that team winning it. You got to find a little more balance than they have right now. But man, they're fun to watch because they're hitting so many threes.
They definitely are. And you could tell, and the opponents have been poor. But ever since the CU game, when it was a high-scoring game, they won that game. Very good win because Colorado's kind of outperformed expectations too. So that's a better win than we thought it was preseason. But ever since that game, it's only been 2 lower-level opponents. But you can tell that the emphasis for CSU has been on defense.
They got to fix it, yeah.
Ali knows he's not going to be able to win all these games in the conference 86-85. He knows it's not going to work like that. I just have a weird feeling, right? Like, it's obviously very tough to win at the Spectrum. I don't expect Utah State to win, to lose many games there. If I didn't put rankings out this week, I may do it on Friday before Saturday's slate. I would have Utah State 1. This just seems to me like one of those games, and not that it's so, Keller said in the comment there that he thinks the herd will be in full effect. They may be. I just have a sneaky suspicion, X and O wise, Calhoun's been mixing his defenses up, right? His matchup zone got figured out late in the season last year, so they weren't effective with that. He's been playing more man-to-man lately, and with that, a switching type of man-to-man. Farouk Manesh is a good enough coach that if Calhoun works a switching man-to-man, he'll get mismatches and get guys that they can get open looks. So they don't really screen a lot because it's a motion and movement offense, but he'll get guys open. And the way they shoot the basketball, I expect Pascal Early to make every single three he takes. Rex Steiner plays like he's for the Globetrotters out there, just throwing stuff in. So I have a sneaky feeling that this is a game that CSU can get. I hate to say that for my Aggie fans, but BJ, thoughts on this one?
Well, the KenPom number is 79-72 for Utah State, so we'll see what the spread is, but that'd be my bad math, 7 points or whatever. It's Utah State's favorite. And the crazy part for me is you talk about Colorado State being number 1 in the nation in 3-point percentage, 45.4%. They're number 12 in 2-point percentage as well. Like, it's not just they're doing it all across the court, and they're number 2 in free throw percentage, 81.2%. Like, they're just they're number 1 in the effective field goal percentage at KenPom. You mentioned 17th offensively. So I watched that Denver game. That was ridiculous that they lost to Denver. And it was back in that where every other night it seemed like somebody in the Mountain West was just having a horrible loss. And for them to lose to Denver, who right now is 300th at KenPom, that's obviously a terrible loss. But they've got a couple really nice wins. I mean, three top 100 wins with Wichita State, South Florida, and then you mentioned Colorado and Utah State. I mean, they haven't really played great the last 4 games. You're hearing Calhoun talking about the effort level and guys being entitled a little bit, and just some of the things that he's saying don't sound great coming out of their press conferences. So they, Illinois State struggled, only won by 5. I know they had a nice game against Charlotte, but the South Florida game, I know they're decent, but they didn't play great in that game. And obviously Montana State went to overtime. So I wouldn't say a Utah State fan, if they're being honest, feels like great about how their team's playing right now, either going into conference play. So I still think they have a great home court advantage. We'll find out about the students, but that for me is maybe the best student section in the Mountain West. I've been there numerous times. I mean, Jeff, when the pit's rocking, it's as good as anybody. But Utah State is, I think, underrated a little bit when they're packed and their student section's there and they're rolling. That place is as good as there is in the league as well, in my opinion, in terms of noise, and the student section's right there on top of the visiting bench. So interesting 12 o'clock game. We'll see what the atmosphere is like, but I think Colorado, I mean, the numbers say Utah State, like I said, at Ken Palm and stuff, but I'm with you. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to go out on a limb and predict the upset, but it really wouldn't probably surprise me if Colorado State comes in there and gets it, but it probably wouldn't shock me either if, you mentioned the defensive struggles of Colorado State. We look up and it's a 12 or 13 point Utah State win either.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. I didn't even touch on really Utah State because I can't put my finger on like one part of their game that I think they're struggling at. But you're right. The last week or two, they have not looked great. Calhoun, as you mentioned, called guys out kind of by name, and I don't think they responded super well. He's been tinkering with the lineup a little bit. Now, that's not a terrible thing, but he's been moving guys in and out. He started – Templin no longer starts. He went to Gary Clark for a game, bagged him. Well, Clark responded really well with a great game against Illinois State, but he went to Keller, the Utah transfer, and he's serviceable for what Calhoun wants out of him, but he's not going to light it up for you. So, I mean, look, I still think very highly of that Utah State team. So just because I think, like, sometimes, as you said, sometimes you have to go out on a limb here. So you can't pick the chalk all the time. I'm going to go with an early season, early afternoon kind of upset just to shake things up. And, I wouldn't be shocked, the same as you said, if the Aggies win the game by 10 going away and everybody's like, you look like an idiot. That's fine because
Colorado State will go, 7 of 28 from 3 or whatever at some point, and and if they're not,
they'll have some games like that. Okay, let's touch on 2 more games here. Geoff, you were not in here for our San Diego State discussion, so I'm interested to get your thoughts on them. So let's skip the last game that we'll talk about and move ahead to the non-con game, really the last big one. I know Utah State plays Memphis back down on Valentine's Day, but Saturday night in Phoenix, not quite a true road game, but it will be largely an Arizona fan base. Now, they're number 1 in the AP poll. I think they're 5th, give or take a spot in the Ken Palm. They have a handful of incredible wins. They won at Alabama last week. They beat Florida opening night, the defending national champs. They beat UCLA and Donovan Dent. I think they knocked somebody else off. I can't even remember.
UConn.
UConn. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, no wonder they're ranked number 1 in the AP. I have no idea how they're not ranked number 1 in Ken Palm with those type of wins, because that's ridiculous. So they're not, contrary to what you see a lot in today's college hoops, they're not a chuck and fire away from 3-point team. So, they're going to look to pound it inside and run and get some fast break points. Maybe it's a good thing, though, that they haven't lost yet. Maybe it's kind of a sleepier spot here for Arizona right before the break, not at home. Maybe that'll work to San Diego State's benefit. Really, their backs are to the wall in terms of at-large play. I mean, sure, they could go 18-2 in Mountain West play, but I don't have confidence in that happening right now. So this really is kind of their last bullet in the chamber if they want to get on the at-large bubble. What are your thoughts for this Rumble late Saturday night down in Phoenix?
Most of the past decade, maybe 15 years, I don't know, however long you want to go back, I would tell you that this San Diego State Arizona game was like kind of one of those really good opportunities for San Diego State to pull off an upset. Didn't they get one that was just last year or the year before where they were beating everybody in California, and they picked off like a Gonzaga team in recent years? And Houston, this team, I can't bring myself to see it. I just don't see it. We know what the individual talent is. I still think Miles Byrd is individually talented, but you can't have 0 points one game like you did 3 games ago and then 17, and then tonight disappear and play less than 20 minutes. Magoon Guaf, I think we're all still sort of waiting. Maybe it's unfair to him. He is coming back from an injury, but we're still sort of waiting for him to look tremendous, I suppose. And again, that's such an unfair thing to expect of a player coming off an injury, but he hasn't wowed me the way I thought he would. Their best players coming off the bench right now in BJ Davis. I just think that they are a team right now that doesn't have its identity, and there's no team in the league. I mean, you could say Boise State with rebounding, but I don't know if there's a team in the league really that has an identity quite like San Diego State does, right? You know what they are. They're going to defend like crazy. I'll tell you what, man, they play around like they did tonight with Air Force, and they have with several other teams, and just sort of think their offense is going to get them through it when they're playing some of these top 4 or 5 teams in the Mountain West, and they're going to get picked off. And I don't think Arizona's a team I just think Arizona's too good to have an upset on Saturday. I think San Diego State will still play themselves back into a top 5-ish kind of season. But man, I until I see it, I guess I can't believe it. I know they have a decent win. Was it Oregon? I think it was, but we haven't seen it yet, right? I mean, who I thought Sean Newman might be a better point guard for them. Now he's been hurt a little bit too. If he comes in and can't shoot, he's only taken a few threes all year. If he comes in and can't shoot the ball at all, then you just kind of sag off of him. And I just don't know yet who's their guy that's going to take over. Maybe it is BJ Davis. Maybe it's going to be Reese at some point, but they don't have a guy that's going to take over offensively for me enough. And they're better on offense than defense. So that worries me. Worries me. I'll say this real quick too about San Diego State. I still think Miles Bird is a guy that maybe should just be their point guard. I think you put the ball in his hands and kind of just let him have the ball. I know that I talked to another coach in this league who said they kind of recruited him somewhat out of high school as a point guard. They thought he could become a point guard. And I've been intrigued by that ever since I heard that. And when I see him struggle, I think I kind of fall back to this idea of, well, maybe it's because he's not playing the right position. And I don't know that he's a good enough ball handler to be a great point guard, but I do think that maybe you have to generate a lot more offense through him rather than through anybody else for him to be effective.
Well, that's an interesting point. And I wouldn't disagree with much of anything that you said. For me, with Bird at the point, I don't think he has the mentality to be a point guard. I think he wants to be a scorer. I don't think he'd be a great facilitator or point guard. Clearly, he's a very, as you mentioned, very talented player. May not handle it well enough against incredible pressure like some of the guards will give him in this league. But I just don't know if he has the mindset to be a point guard. And that's not to say he's not a smart player. His dad was a coach, Calvin, and I respect his knowledge of the game. I just don't know if that suits what he wants to do out there. But BJ,
Tom, you should ask Brian Dutcher, a player. Maybe they can join us and we can ask him about that.
Yeah. Well, funny you mentioned that, BJ, because you have been working the phones here or whatever we use these days in 2025 to try and connect with schools to bring on coaches and players after big wins. Jeff's school there in Albuquerque, the Lobos, they have agreed, as have several others. Unfortunately, San Diego State decided they were not going to partake, and they respectfully declined.
Are you shocked, Jeff? Are you shocked? It was the exact wording was they respectfully declined, but they wish us the best of luck in this endeavor.
Yeah.
They're the only school that's turned us down so far.
We'll have to check in later in the year. I mean, we'll have to check in later in the year.
Yeah. BJ, before I want to get one thought from you here on San Diego State. I know we talked about it. I wanted to mention this. You know, a lot of people don't really look into this stuff. I pay attention to all this stuff. Before the night, they played 8 games. 8 games. Okay, they play like 1 game a week. This is an oddity. It's not really a criticism, and there's nothing wrong with it. But Saturday when they play Arizona, that's their first Saturday game of the year. This will be the 7th Saturday of the college basketball season. They have not played a college basketball game yet. I'm not going through the other 364 Division I teams, and I don't think Ken Pum has a filter for that. But I can pretty much guarantee you that there's not one other school in the country that hasn't played a Saturday game. They played 8 games. There were only 2 teams in the country, FAMU, Florida A&M, and Texas Southern, both out of the SWAC, that had played 8 games going into today. And if you don't want to be in the company of SWAC teams, because that's historically one of the 2 or 3 worst conferences in the country. So there's 9 teams in the country, and I'll get off this tangent in a minute. There are 9 teams in the country that have not played a true road game. San Diego State is one of those 9 teams. So I don't know whether it's Dutch. I don't know whether it's his assistants. I don't know whether it's the AD. Somebody that's doing the scheduling and all of that is doing them a massive disservice. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Tangent over. You guys can comment on that if you want.
They've already had 4 different breaks of at least a week between games. I mean, that is pretty crazy to think about. And I was actually talking to Mark Ziegler about this like a week ago. We were texting, and it is really crazy when you think about it. And they're always a team too that like never plays the full allotment of games either. Like, I don't know why that is, but like you get 31 games. Why would you not play 31 games? They end up at 29 one year, 30 and they do have they're playing Whittier on Monday, so they're going to get one of those non-D1 games. They got a Saturday Arizona, and then turn around. That'll be an interesting game, a non-D1 team on a Monday right after you play Arizona. 2 days later, I'm sure they'll be fine, but yeah, they're not going to play the full allotment of games. It's been very weird. I know they got the 3 games in a row at the Players era, and those were all quality games: Michigan, Oregon, Baylor. But overall, yeah, very weird schedule. I'm not sure what's behind that, but I mean, they have the Sunday, November 9th, and they didn't play till Tuesday, the 18th, and they lost to Troy because they hadn't played in 9 days or whatever. So, Geoff, you may know more about this from media days and stuff, but yeah, four breaks of at least a week already is just absolutely crazy. And the true road game thing, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, they're going to San Jose for the first road game. So, I mean, maybe if there was a first road game to not have to deal with a crowd and all that kind of stuff, it's San Jose. But certainly an odd schedule, to say the least, for San Diego State.
So I what drives me crazy about it too is that there has been no team that is kind of led the charge more about, let's not go to 20 games, let's not even do 18. We want to be a 16 game schedule than San Diego State, because they say they need the flexibility in non-conference play. And there's 2 teams in this league really that can get any game they want and can probably schedule just about however they want. And it's Southern California's San Diego, and it's UNLV because they're in Vegas. They can do so much with their schedule. And it's been San Diego State that's led the charge on, hey, here's how we should schedule. And for them to still have 2 non-conference games as we're starting league play to play, and have those gaps in this part of the season. And then in the second half of the season, when again, they've sort of led the charge on part of the reason for the split that's coming is they don't like playing those altitude games. We read about it and hear about it every single year. Well, then why stack up so many games early on or take so many gaps early on and not figure out a way right now to have, even ask the league, hey, give us an earlier league game if you want to. I don't understand why they're doing it the way they're doing it. I don't understand the true road game thing. I do think that college basketball at some point is going to have to put an emphasis. If everyone keeps agreeing that a true road game and playing on campuses is actually good for the game, and I think most people sort of agree with that, these neutral court games, they're fine because they get good matchups, but nobody's thrilled with the locations and the crowds. That's not what makes these neutral court games. Yep. If you want true road games to matter, the committee has to at least start in some way, maybe metrically, you put it into the net somehow. A true road game means just a tick more than everything else, or whatever it means right now. You just have to weigh it a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think that actually have heard that might be something that they look to do moving forward, maybe next year, even hopefully. That's something they'll take a look at. Now, I didn't have anything to talk about with the Fresno and UNLV game, even though I am looking forward to watching. I think that's going to be like watching a train wreck in a sense, because you never know what you're going to get with those 2 teams. That could end in 95-92, or it could end 61-60. So I'm looking forward to watching that one. But we have one more heavy hitter.
Hey, Vance Wahlberg's ready to come on whenever you want him, man.
I'm looking forward to talking to Vance. Don't get me wrong. I think
they were one of the teams that I said, hey, we're going to be reaching out to, hopefully, a couple times throughout the season or something, or more than, I forget how I phrased it. And their SID wrote back and said, if we're on, we would love to be in a position to be on more than once this season.
Right. Yeah. Because what is thought in the back of his mind probably as well, we're not going to get on for beating Air Force or San Jose State. So how are we going to get on? We're going to have to beat somebody other than those 2 teams. So
they've actually been kind of fun to watch at times.
Yeah, 100% they have. They've played in some really good games, and they make me want to rip my hair out because, they're not quite maximizing what they have. But look, they've been better than last year, and I think that'll be a fun game to watch. But the other headliner, late night in Reno, you will actually not be there, BJ, but the Red Hot Broncos now heading down to take on Alfred and the Wolfpack. So, it's interesting because they've been playing such great basketball. And then you look at Kent Palm. I mean, its game's going to be like a pick'em. I mean, people are going to be shocked when they look at and see the spread, and it's not much more than a point or 2 at most. I can't imagine it being. So, I mean, I don't, what's it going to take here for Boise to go down there and win? We haven't talked about Nevada yet. What's your take on the Pack?
Yeah, my brother-in-law is getting married on Saturday in Kansas City, so I'm headed to Kansas City for my brother-in-law's wedding, and this will be the only remaining game I miss the rest of the season. And I'm disappointed to miss it because it's first of all maybe the last trip to go to Reno for a while with them, not going in the conference. But I think it's going to be a really good game. And Boise State and Nevada, especially in Reno, have just played some classic games over the years. And you look at Nevada; they've won 4 games in a row, and I don't think they're a great team, but I think Nevada's decent. I think they're pretty good. I mean, I think you look at some of the games that they've played, and I know they don't have a ton of great wins, so to speak. I guess the UC San Diego game is their best win. They've got a win over a San Francisco team. Not quite sure how great they are, but I think they've got some talent. I think Alford kind of likes this group, and they had Reed made the roster with a ton of newcomers, and I think Alford said it was the most newcomers he's ever had, I think, in terms of putting his roster together. I think it's going to be a really sneaky hard game for Boise State because you look at it on, like you said, you're thinking, oh, Boise's some of the wins they've got and where they're ranked in the net and KenPom and all this, they should go down there and win this game. But I mean, I guarantee you Leon ain't thinking like that. Like, this is a scary, scary game for Boise State because all this work you did in the non-conference, particularly the last 8 days or whatever, to go to Butler and win, to beat St. Mary's on a neutral, you don't want to go into Christmas 0-1 in conference play, after losing in Reno. So massive kind of pre-Christmas game, and I'm sure it's the same for all these teams, but I mean, a lot of the Boise players are flying straight from Reno home for Christmas. All these players on these pre-Christmas games are ready to get out of town for a couple of days and take a break. So you never really know where the focus is. It's just a weird game. These pre-Christmas games, I would assume, won't be a big student contingent. I know they haven't been drawing great in Reno this year anyway. And then you talk about finals being over. And so I guess that maybe helps Boise a little bit if it's not some crazy atmosphere, but very tricky game for Boise. And if Boise's able to go in there and win, I think they would be feeling just phenomenal about winning in Reno and starting conference play, because I think this is going to be a dogfight. Probably a little lower scoring, lower possession game maybe, but I think this is going to be a slugfest all the way to the end.
I always worry about those last games before holidays because the players just want to get out of there. Alford's dealing with some injuries too. They have Camper, one of their leading scorers at the guard position, has been out for a week or so now. Armo Trading's been out for a few weeks. He's got a couple freshmen that he likes. Rollison's not really doing the job. I don't think he trusts Rollison anymore. I was very surprised when I looked and wrote down the numbers today. Their strength of schedule in KenPom is 110. I would have never thought that. They basically played like all Q2 and Q3 games, but I guess it's because they don't have a lot of Q4 games in there, although they did lose one to UC Davis. But I did not expect them to have a KenPom of 110. But anyway, Geoff, I want to ask you, because Alford very well from having covered him a few years down in Albuquerque. I've said a few times in my pod now, I just get the feeling that he's not long for being a head coach anymore. I just don't know that it's something that he wants to do. I see him being along the lines of the Jay Wrights and the Tony Bennett's and the other guys that have shut it down in not really in their prime, but when they still had at least 5 to 10 years left to go because they don't like the way that the sport is going. Do you get any sense of that from Alford? Do you think he's reinvigorated? Do you think he's ready to go? Or do you think he just kind of cashing it in and doing what Steve Lavin is there at San Diego by just cashing a few checks before he retires?
I would say that there's something to that. I think that both of his sons now being in coaching, Bryce is on the G League coaching staff at Oklahoma City's G League team for the second year, and they won the G League title last year, I believe. No, they were at the NBA Finals. He was there. Corey Alford's now an associate head coach at the Division I level after being a head coach at the NAIA level for a few years. Like he's enjoying his son's coaching. I think too that him and Noodles have been together for an awfully long time, right? But they are old school. They aren't enamored with this new way of basketball. Steve had a semi-viral kind of rant about it last year towards the end of last year about NIL that a lot of people jumped on. So yeah, I think there's something to that. I want to point out his ratings and the way they schedule. The reason the KenPom numbers are so good for him and his team is if you look at it, while they do have it doesn't help when you lose to UC Davis, obviously, but they don't even have one game scheduled outside of the top 200 KenPom. So it's not like they're playing 300, like 100 spots below, where they just have one or two games of a Denver or somebody like that. they don't even schedule somebody outside of the top 200. Now they might schedule an awful lot of 150s through
Right.
200 that nobody that's going to wow you, but metrically they don't even schedule anybody that's going to hurt you at all. So I think that's why their numbers are so good, which kind of also maybe tells you don't be so impressed with the numbers, right? Because have they wowed any of us? Probably not, right?
Right.
But I will say that watching Steve Alford and Leon Rice go at it for this Saturday, this used to be a league with so many veteran coaches, and now there's a lot of newcomers. But right off the bat, we got, in my mind, the Boise Nevada game is head coach matchups, and then you got, I know Calhoun was here last year, and he has been a head coach for a few years, a successful head coach, but he's still pretty new, and Ollie's new. So like I like seeing these two newcomer head coaches. I like seeing Sundance in Grand Canyon. While Bryce has coached for a while at Grand Canyon, they're a new school. I like seeing some new blood. And again, don't do it yet, but when you do watch my podcast, Talking Grammar podcast later, Sundance said something today when I talked to him. 4 years ago, this league, 3 years ago, this league was everybody was playing pretty much the same style. They beat each other up all the time, and it was a slugfest. There weren't a whole lot of run and gun teams at the time. There weren't a whole lot of variances. Now there's so many different styles that I think coaching staffs, not just head coaches, but coaching staffs are going to be tested this year, because your scouting report is going to be so different. It's not going to be just the physical Big East of the West kind of thing anymore. There's so much variance in the style of play with what Sundance is doing, with what Ollie is doing, with what Eric's doing here at New Mexico. And we haven't seen that in this league in a while. And that excites me. Like, as somebody who is just sort of an onlooker of the league and having to cover it, I like the fact that there's so much variance, and Fresno State's doing the same thing, right? There are different styles in this league, and the league hasn't had that in a while.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's totally accurate, and I mean, I may have thought that as I watched the games, but I never put that thought together to come up with. But that's very interesting, and like you said, that's exciting, and that's good to see, because you never know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a lot. Like I mentioned with the Fresno UNLV game, you're going to get some high scoring games, you're going to get some low scoring games, you're going to get all kinds of stuff. So,
by the way, quick, well, you guys talked Wyoming earlier, and I was very curious. Like, are they not like computer trickers or whatever because of their numbers, but like, are we going to look up and they're going to be, 8-12 in conference play, or are they a team? I mean, or worse, or are they a team that you think is like a team that's reflective of their metrics, that they're really going to be a semi-contender like in this league? I mean, they haven't beaten really anybody. I think their best win is a team that's ranked 185th at KenPom, that South Dakota State game. But I mean,
their best win was a loss at Texas Tech. I'm telling you, the best performance they had was a loss. But to your question, I think the answer is, like, it's hard to know because they haven't beat anybody, right? But they've done what they're supposed to. It's not like they slipped up and like, okay, right, that's who they are. They did it against everybody, and that's why I think they're going to be that they're going to. I don't know that they'll be one of the top four, because with the 12 teams now, it's not 5 teams get a bye, only 4 do. So I don't know that they'll be a first round bye kind of team. But man, I think they're going to be in that 5-6 range. I think they're going to find themselves in that range. They're going to finish 5th or 6th in this league when they were picked 9th, and it might only end up being a 3-spot jump, but it's going to be a significant 3-spot jump.
Are you buying them, Tom?
I think you have to. I think you almost have to count them for winning 7 home games, right? They're going to play 10. I don't remember off the top of my head who the team is that they miss at home.
It's New Mexico.
Is it New Mexico? Okay. Yeah. I knew they were in that little pod with New Mexico and UNLV. I wasn't sure who they avoided. So if they avoid one of the top 5 teams, right, I think you can pencil them for 7-3 at home. Can they win 4 or 5 road games? I don't know about that, but that already improves you from your 8-12 last year. So 10-10, maybe 11-9. I'm right with Geoff. I don't think they can get a top 4 seed. I mean, I'll be surprised if they do. That would be wonderful, because I think Sundance brings a lot to the table. Meyer, we didn't even mention Nas Meyer. He's a fantastic player. He's won Freshman of the Week at least 3 times already. And they're a very good team. I just think that, once they start going night in and night out against good competition, I think that's where they're going to kind of level out a little bit. But certainly they're not going to be in that 8-9 game like they were the last few years.
Agreed.
Okay. I think that's a good time to wrap it up. I want to put one comment on here. because it's funny. Azuch says, Tom, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? No pressure, but I'll decide if I like you or not based on an answer. It's interesting. I was singing Christmas songs at school today, which I have to be up for in about 5 hours. So I was singing Let It Snow because that came on the radio in school. And I always think about Die Hard when I hear that song. So even though it's like one of the best action movies of all time, I quote so many lines from that for years. I associate it as a Christmas movie because of that song. So and the holiday party. So I maybe not everybody's answer, but I would call that a holiday party. I don't know.
I 100% think that's a Christmas movie.
Okay, Geoff.
It's no La Bamba, but it's a Christmas movie.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry nobody had a La Bamba question, but good enough. Okay.
Oh no.
By the way, when we decided we were going to do this show, Geoff, Tom's like, so how long do you want each episode to go? And I'm like, 30-ish minutes, 45 minutes, and maybe on a big night, you go over an hour. I said, go as long as you want. But I said, hey, San Diego State Air Force, if there's not much to talk about and you want to go 20 minutes, you go 20 minutes. And here we are on the debut episode, an hour and 20 minutes. And I didn't tell you, Tom, but I mean, my agreement with Geoff was I'm actually paying him by the minute. So you screwed me a little bit here, Tom, tonight.
That's why Geoff. Okay.
Let's keep going. Now. So Fresno State's defense, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was just going to say, I can't believe if you ever, my listeners of my pod will laugh because every time I come on and I say, well, I'm going to try and keep this one to 50 or 55 minutes. And then after an hour and 10, I'm like, oh man, I got to get off. So it's just my problem. I don't know when to shut up. So I guess that's why I enjoy doing it.
That's the problem. No, me and Geoff, you should have known if you have that problem, you get us on here. This is actually a pretty short episode, all things considered.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, look, it's been a great first episode. Geoff, thanks so much for coming on. BJ, of course, thanks for piloting the show tonight. We'll call this our pilot episode here like they do on TV. So as BJ mentioned, Saturday, he will not be around. I'll be running the show solo.
You're on your own.
6 games. You could count the San Diego State game, non-con action. So 6 games, wall to wall, 2:00 here for me Eastern, noon Mountain for you guys, and the last game starts at 10:30 Eastern, 8:30 for you guys. So that's like 10 hours of wall-to-wall basketball. Hopefully you guys don't have holiday parties. Sorry that you have a wedding, BJ, but you can just camp in front of the TV, watch 1 or 2 games at a time. Plenty of stuff to chat about. Thanks for joining in the chat tonight. Look forward to more of that on Saturday. Any last words from you guys?
I'll sign off with this. This is going to be fun. First of all, talking Mountain West after dark is always delivers, but having a little bit of a chatter about it too is going to be fun. And I think that the main key is BJ and I and we can all sit there and talk too. But yeah, you guys listening and watching, you guys make this show too. So like you guys bring those comments and bring the interaction, and this show is going to be pretty good.
No, I'm excited for it too. And I think some nights it'll be just Geoff and Tom. Some nights might be just me and Tom. Maybe we'll get Chris Murray or Mark Ziegler, other writers around the conference on. Maybe a national writer could pop in, talk about the conference. And then, as you said, Tom, like we do hope like pretty regularly, like if not every show, hopefully like once or twice a week, we can, hey, big win for Utah State. Let's get Jared Calhoun on the bus for 5 minutes. Like we reached out to these schools and they said they're going to help us make this happen. So I think we're going to be able to get some players, some coaches, and really kind of make this a show where all Mountain West fans at the end of the night, you want to pop on and talk Mountain West basketball. And you're going to, Tom, you do a tremendous job covering the league, and maybe you were deferring to us a little more tonight, but when you get down to giving your kind of hard-hitting analysis, most of these post games, I think it's going to be great stuff for the league, and I'm super excited about this show, and I hope everybody subscribes on YouTube. It's right there at the bottom of the screen right now, youtube.com/@MountainWestBNN. And anytime there's a Mountain West game, aside from the Whittier San Diego State Monday game, and then who's UNLV playing? They got a crappy game.
There's back-to-back Mondays on this coming Monday, the 22nd is the Whittier one, and then the 29th, UNLV has a non-D1. So I think those 2 Mondays we should bypass because the day after that is a full slate on Tuesday the 30th. So
La Sierra.
Yeah, with the exception of those 2 Mondays back-to-back here, 22nd and 29th, I think it should be a full go. So, look out for our posts. As BJ mentioned, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us out massively. We love the comments and the feedback. Thanks for being here on the pilot episode of another night in the Mountain West. It's now turned to morning here for me. It will be morning for most of you guys in a little bit. But thanks so much for joining us. For Geoff Grammer and BJ Rains, I'm Tom Moser. We'll see you guys next time on another night in the Mountain West.